Hey y'all, and welcome to Monter's Market, and welcome to Try It Tuesday. You all know, if you've been here before, that Try It Tuesday is my favorite of the month. I love Try It Tuesday. It's always hosted by Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs, and I'm actually doing two of her designs today that she did, two of her DIYs. I'm redoing them and giving my own spin to it, which is what Try It Tuesday's all about. And then my third one I'm doing from Melissa at All Things Crafty. Both of these ladies are amazing. I'm telling you, I cannot get enough of either one of them. And Melissa is just a stinking doll and so talented. Now let's get into DIY number one. This rolling pin was made by Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs, and I fell in love with that rolling pin. I just happened to have a rolling pin laying around my house that was bare. So I took some ivory chalk paint by Waverly, and I did the same thing that Sammy did. Now, both of their, Sammy will have two videos, and Melissa will have one video linked below with their version of these DIYs. But with Sammy's, she just sort of gave it a white, I don't know how you explain it. Like, we painted it, but we didn't paint all of it. We gave it still sort of a old used look. Now, I wanted my handles a little darker brown. I think she painted hers the Nantucket blue that she loves so much, and it is a gorgeous color, but it doesn't match anything in my house. So I went in with the Waverly, what is that stuff called? Come on, Brenda. Antique wax, that's what it is. And I found this rub-on sticker from the Dollar Tree. Now, I've had this in the past and I've used it, but I've cut it all up and used it. I've never used the whole thing, but I'm telling you, this whole thing together is absolutely stunning. And I kid you not. It is so easy to put on. I just wrapped it around that rolling pin and I rubbed until all of it came off. And then I just took a little piece of twine and tied to each end, and it's that easy. And look how beautiful it is. Oh my heavens, like I just can't. Look at it. There are no words of how beautiful this is. I mean, you take this ugly old rolling pin that sits around forever, and now look at it. It is strictly for looks. You know, of course, you wouldn't want to use it again now, but oh my word. You got to let me know down in the comments what you think about the way this rolling pin turned out. I stinking love it so much. Never in a million years would I have thought to put that sticker on a rolling pin, but I love it. Matches my colors perfectly, and I just can't say enough about it. I just think it's so beautiful. So now, whenever I made the next one, I was kind of sort of copying what Sammy did. But when she says put your own twist on it, I put my own twist on it with completely different colors. Now, what I'm talking about is these little jars right here. Now, I could not find those jars specifically. She used 3. I'm only going to use 2. And I wanted them to match that rolling pin that I just did. Now, there wasn't a whole lot of color in there, but the colors that were in there were sort of a navy blue, a red, or a maroon color, and pink. Now, the pink that I had was a little too pink, so I added a little bit of that antique wax to it. And the red was a little too bright. Again, I used a little bit of that antique wax and darkened them up, painted these little jars, and didn't want to do 3 because I just didn't need to do 3, and I really don't have room to do 3. But once I got them painted, I went in with on the lid. Now, I got this from the Dollar Tree. This is some of their new vinyl that they've come out with. They're coming out with prints now, and this is a beautiful print, and it happens to have the same exact colors that's in that rub-on sticker. So I just cut a little piece off for the top of each one of the little lids. Super duper easy, not hard at all to do. Stuck it on the top, and then I went back over the top of those little jars with ivory, white, and antique wax. Now, why so much? Because I don't know. I just wasn't getting the look that I wanted. And I kept on until I liked the outcome of the jars. Those colors were so vibrant, and I wanted to really, really tone them down. And it took the ivory, the white, and the antique wax to tone them down and give it that real old, rustic sort of antiqued look. And that's exactly what I was looking for, was an old, rustic, antique look. So once I got it like I wanted it, I didn't have any sandpaper, so I just took my scissors and sort of scuffed up around the edges of the paint and scuffed it off. Then I took some twine and wrapped it around a few times around the lid, tied it in a little bow, and added the cutest little laser cut keys. They're made out of wood. You can get them at the Dollar Tree. They have so many different designs in those laser cuts. Now, I thought I wanted to go in with this little white foam flower, but it just was too bright and too vibrant for the colors that I had. So what I did is I went into my stash, and I'm adding those keys right there. I'll show you those better in just a minute when I show you the reveal. But I had some Sola wood flowers that had more of a natural look about them that really went with these jars so much better than those bright white flowers. Now, I could have took some of that antique wax and toned those little ones down, but when I found these Sola wood flowers, they were just, to me, brought out the wood in the rolling pin. You know what I mean? Like, you've got the wood on the rolling pin, the wood in the Sola wood flowers, and the wood on the little keys that I'm using. And it just sort of brought it full circle, in my opinion. Now, I didn't like all of that greenery because it was just too much. So I ended up taking one of those little leaf sets right there that I just pulled off of something random, cut it in half, and only used one leaf on each side. And that's what I was looking for. Like, once I got that figured out, I really, really was happy with it, and I was done. And I love the way they turned out, and I cannot wait to show you what they look like. But then I'm going to show you what they look like with the rolling pin. So right now, this is what they look like by themselves. How cute. The keys, to me, are just the cutest little touch. Look how adorable. Now, like I said, my colors are way different than hers, but same general idea, you know, using the jars and everything and making them match your decor. But now look at it with this rolling pin. This is where I am so in love. Look at the colors kind of all coming together and jiving together, and I just love it. Love it. Honestly, if I were looking at those jars without this rolling pin, I would not like those jars. I mean, they would be okay, but I wouldn't be like over the hills for them. But when you take that rolling pin and you put them upside those jars, it's the perfect little set. And I think it's just so stinking cute. So let me know down in the comment below what you think about what I recreated from Sammy. So now my last and third final DIY, this is a canister set that Melissa over at All Things Crafty made. Now, this woman is so daggum talented, it ain't even funny. And I can't even do her any justice by recreating this. But I really did like the way my little set come out. Now, it's not identical. But again, that's the whole, you know, idea behind Try It Tuesday, is you find something that somebody else has done and you recreate it and put your own spin on it. So I'm taking this tray from the Dollar Tree and these 3 little jars that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going in with that ivory chalk paint, and I want to say it took 2 or 3 coats to get a good coverage on that tray. Now look at here, that tray was beautiful. It was almost like a brushed nickel. Very elegant, just gorgeous tray. And it hurt my feelings a little bit to cover it up because it was such a pretty tray and very high-end looking. So I definitely am going to go back and get me another one, and I'm not going to touch it as far as painting it because that was a beautiful finish on that tray. So now I'm going back over these little jars with the same ivory paint, and it did take 2 good coats to get it covered like I wanted it. And once I got those jars and that tray covered a couple of times and got the paint thick enough, then all I had to do was go in with some of that antique wax and just really, really distress it. I hate it when my tongue won't match my brain. You ever do that where you try to get a word out and you just can't get the daggone word out no matter how hard you try? If you ever hear me pause, it's my brain going, okay, catch up. So now's where I'm going in with this antique wax, and I'm just going to distress it down. Now look here, these lids were metal. So I took this antique wax, put it on top, and I have heard if you put some wet paint on something brown and you're trying to make it look old and rusty, to use cinnamon, ground cinnamon. So that's what I'm doing. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. It's going to be my first time trying. So I took what was left on my brush and I just distressed that little tray down. And then I'm going to go over those jars and distress them down, because I want this to look really, really old, like it came out of my grandma's house or my great-grandma's house or something, just something that's real old and been there forever and ever, but yet still cute. And, just the whole farmhouse, like rustic farmhouse. So now's where I'm going to go in with this ground cinnamon and see if it works. And sure enough, it worked. Now, it might not have looked like what you would expect it to look like, and it didn't look like what I expected it to look like, but I noticed that once it dried, it did look like it was rusted. I mean, it flat plumb looked like it was rusted. There goes my tongue again. Look, if you're new here and you've never been to my channel before, my name's Brenda, but my grandkids call me Monner. But I'm going to tell you right now, I get tongue-tied every stinking video, no matter how hard I try. I guess, I'm ADHD, and my mouth goes way faster than my brain, or my brain goes faster than my mouth. Either way, they don't match up, and I'm always going to get myself tongue-tied. So anyway, now I'm taking these rub-on transfers from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go on those little jars, and I'm going to put sugar on one. I'm going to start with my middle letter so that I make sure I get it even and it's in the middle. If I was to go from left to right, I'm going to mess it up every time and it's going to be off whack. So I started putting them on with my little multi-tool that I use for my chalk couture, and it worked really, really good. But I also noticed that my fingernail did just as good, just as quick. So I put the multi-tool down, just use my fingernail, and look how easy they come off. I mean, those things are so easy. They're beautiful. They're beautiful little letters, and they are old looking. And to me, the look that I was going for here with that real old rustic farmhouse look, I'm talking about old rustic farmhouse. These letters were perfect because they look like the old Western saloon type lettering. You know what I mean? I probably just dated myself. But now I'm going to go back in. Look how cute. Can you tell me that's cute? I think it's just adorable. Anyway, I'm doing the same thing with the keys on this that I did with those little jars a minute ago. I'm going to wrap some twine 2 or 3 times around the top of these little jars. And I'm going to add one of those little keys. I don't know what it is about them keys, y'all, but I love it. Because you think about what I'm doing old-timey, farmhouse, rustic, and those keys look like old-timey keys that you would use to open up an old door from back in the day. And maybe that's why I like those keys so much. And the fact that it's a rolling pin. And back then, the women, they cooked and they used their rolling pins. And it just brings this whole thing together, in my opinion. The keys and the rust and all of that. Now, don't ask me why I went and found me some buttons and put on top of these jars. But they just looked too plain. And I thought, I'm going to just throw me a button on top. And I thought it was just the cutest little addition. And once I got them done, I looked at it and I thought, now, Brenda, why did you put a daggum button on top of them jars? But it's still cute. It didn't make it ugly by no means. But anyway, let me know down in the comments what you think about my recreation of Melissa's little jars that she made. I love them, and I love that rust. Look at that rust. That ain't nothing but ground cinnamon, and it smells so good. And even after it dried, you could just smell that cinnamon in my kitchen, and oh man, oh, it just smells so good. So I want to thank Sammy for doing the Try It Tuesday and allowing me to be a part of it. I want to thank her for my inspiration on the 2 things that I did from her, the jars and the rolling pin. And Melissa, thank you, darling, for giving me such inspiration every time you do something. And I love the way my jars turned out to sort of mimic the ones that you made. And again, if you are just seeing my page for the first time, or my channel for the first time through this Try It Tuesday video, welcome to Monner's Market. I would love it if you'd consider sticking around and becoming part of my little family. It is growing, and I'm so tickled. I just hit 4,000 subscribers a few weeks ago, and it's just like a steady influx now, and I just want you to be a part of that growing family and stay around. If you're here and you've been here from the beginning, oh my gosh, I love y'all to death, and you know that. And I'm so tickled that you are here again for this video. Your support always means everything to me. So thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. There is going to be a playlist listed below, so be sure you go check out that playlist and see what everybody else has done for you today for Try It Tuesday. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. God bless. Bye now.